السلام عليكم
你好
مع السلامة
Oi Hello 再聊
Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome to International Student Stories, where we share authentic stories from international students studying in the US. My name is Simon Hamlin. I am your guide on this journey. Together, we get to explore international students' dreams and passions and the impressive things they do to help shape our schools, society, and the world. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so lucky to have Valeria Rivera visit us again for the second of our two-part interview. This episode is dedicated to finding and pursuing a career path. Valeria's chosen path is graphic design and marketing. We get to learn all about her personal growth, finding her truths and identity, and the key influences in her life. She also talks about the unique challenges international students face when trying to start their career. Enjoy Valeria Rivera's International Student Story. Well, welcome back.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you back here. In our first part, we got to talk about you finding your way in the US and really finding your voice. And today we get to talk about your career path, which is always an interesting topic because I know for myself, coming out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I know for international students, it's even more challenging. Even when you know what you want to do, there are other things that you have to consider, not the least of which like visas and whether you want to stay in the US, go back home, all of those type of things become challenges. So I really want to hear about your journey toward your career goals and offer up some advice that you might have for other international students who are trying to navigate that world.
Absolutely. I feel like just today, actually, I realized that I'm halfway through the semester, my last semester at college. So it was very exciting for me to realize that, but also very like daunting because I was like, oh my God, I gotta figure it out, you know? But I feel like it's something that you never quite feel like you figured out. It's always something that's like in the process of, you know? So yeah, we'll see.
I think that encapsulates our life, right? It's always a work in progress. We never quite have it figured out. But it does seem like you have quite a bit in place. I mean, you are a business admin and commercial design major. You have a minor in art, or you will have a minor in art history. And you are pursuing a career in marketing and graphic design. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you're an artist as well, which plays into that marketing and graphic design.
I'm so nervous about calling myself an artist, but like, I guess so.
Why is that?
I don't know. Just, I guess I always like doubted me being able to go into art as a professional. And so like that word still feels like a little bit weird. Less so now that I've done like a capstone project, you know, and like it feels more like I'm presenting it in this exhibition to like the whole school. So it feels a little bit more like, oh yeah, like I'm an artist and this is my artwork, but it still feels such a weird label to put on myself.
Yeah. I think that's always a challenge for artists in general. I mean, when I was acting, like there was a lot of times where it was hard for me to think of myself as a professional actor. And I totally understand what you're saying on just that self-doubt that can come with putting yourself out there, you know, and sharing your creative energy.
Right.
You'd mentioned capstone.
Yes.
Talk about that real quickly.
Yeah, sure. Every art major, when they reach their senior year at college, they are supposed to take a art research class, studio research class, in which we basically come up with our own project, right? So that it can be about whatever you want, however you want to do it. I'm a commercial design concentration, so technically, like my expertise would be, you know, commercial artwork, which would be like graphic design, video, photo. But if I wanted to do something with like painting or mixed media, like I had full creative liberty to do whatever I could come up with, right? And so I was feeling very existentialist coming out of summer. It's just like it was a very it was a summer full of self-reflection and introspection and whatnot, and like just growth overall. I believe we talked about this like last episode, but after summer, I just came back and I was like, who am I? And so there was this one question from a cover letter that I tried doing back in like 2019 or 2020, I think. I was reading through the New York Times About Me page, and the theme of like the truth and like finding truth came up like again and again and again. And I was trying to like find a way to relate to that so I could like sell myself as like someone who fit in the culture there. And I just asked myself, so what is my truth and where do I find it? And that question completely just baffled me for like years, like still does, because I never knew what the answer was, and like ever so often, like I would come back to it and kind of like I would put it on my desk in a post-it, just like look at it from time to time and like think about it. And I could not figure it out. It was the first time ever that I kind of like dwelled on something like that long. I'm usually good at like coming up with like words, I guess, in that sense. So came into my senior year and I was thinking about this, and with my senior project, I was like, why not create a series of finding my truth? Where do I find it? Kind of like exploring my identity and like what that is made up of. So that's how it started, really. And I had no idea where I was going at first. I just started creating posters randomly on Illustrator or Photoshop or whatnot. I'm doing it solely graphic design based, by the way. And I didn't like it. I didn't really feel into it. And about halfway through the semester, I was like, okay, I need to really like reconsider this, right? And slowly but surely, like the project just evolved into this still about identity, but more so about the relationships that I have in my life and how I relate to people, how relationships have helped me grow and become the person that I am today. And so what I'm exhibiting next month, yes, April, well, 2 months, I guess, I have a book in which I have a bunch of, posters or graphics that I created. And like right next to it, there's text from excerpts from my personal journal juxtaposed with like this book that I read probably like 7 times in my life, which is called True Love. It's written by a Buddhist monk. And it's just about identifying what true love really is, not only like romantic love, but just overall just true love, And it has taught me a lot about how to relate to myself, how to treat myself better, and like also how to like be better in relationships that I have. So I kind of like juxtapose both writing, like my own writing and true love. And adding to that, there's the graphics, of course, and it kind of like tells the story of how my relationships have developed, I guess, over the years, and how it has like shaped me into the person that I think that I am today. And the second part of that series is I printed out 3 graphics that I included in the book. And this is more mixed media, fine artsy, you could say. But I really wanted to tell a story of that relationship. And they're supposed to symbolize the 3 most influential, most important relationships that I've had in my life, or at least that I think that I've had in my life thus far, which include the relationship with my mom, with my body, and with my ex-boyfriend, who I dated from like first year here to beginning of my senior year, so 2021. And so with that, what I'm doing is that I'm layering these graphics. They're like posters that I printed out with Staples, right? And they're pretty big, actually. They're movie-sized posters. I'm layering it with transparent gesso, which when you add the coat after coat, it creates this like really rough, whitish texture. And with each layer that I do, I write something like a quote that I remember the person telling me, or like a memory with that person, and it tells the story, right? And so the first writing that you see in the piece, like the layers that are further down, is what happened first. And as you go up, it's what happened last. And so it kind of like tells a story like that. But with every layer that like I add more gesso onto it, it kind of, some of it is not even legible anymore, or you can't even see it. And then it's supposed to like mean like how when time passes, or like when the more memories you create with that person, like all those like initial memories are kind of like buried into what happened last. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. There's definitely a piece there that's more like negative than like positive.
Right.
But I wanted that theme of like hiddenness. I wanted the viewer to kind of like look for the clues and like read between the lines, and kind of like be confused of what certain stuff says. And on top of that, I go with spray paint and I write, I wrote across all 3 of them because they're going to be side by side. Know that if you hide, it doesn't go away. And I'm still wrapping it up. Of course, it's not completely finished, but
It sounds phenomenal.
I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. Just the way you're describing it, I'm excited to see it. And I'm curious what you said you went into this project just as a way to learn more about who you are. What's come out of this project for you? Who are you? who,
No, that's a really good question.
who are you, Valeria?
Oh God. I think that I've definitely learned from this project how important people are for myself, because I've always grown up with the idea of you're coming this world like by yourself to live with yourself, by yourself, for yourself. And the idea of like not selfishness, but just like I guess like tamed selfishness has always like been like instilled in my brain, like you always look out for yourself, like you always come first. And so I think that for a while in my life, I didn't really consider like how important my relationships were, or I wasn't like fully aware of how important they are for me and how much they shape me and how I like my friends and family and partners to have a good impact on my life. And I think that this project has really like let me see just how influential those people have been to me. Like it's like that old saying, like that people say that you're
You're like the sum total of your
yeah.
friends. Like that's a reflection of who you are.
Yeah, and it's something that I really started to consider like when I started doing this project, because I started picking up of like stuff that I've learned through the years of this person, or like maybe positive or negative, like it really depends on the relationship. But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very excited.
Who are some of the people, you mentioned your mom as one, who along with your mom are some of the more influential people of your life?
My dad definitely is another person that I talk about there. I try to talk about them without actually talking about them, because privacy was a big like concern of mine. And I think that part of the reason why I struggled so much initially with this project was because it was so vulnerable. But at the same time, I don't want to be too vulnerable, because like I don't want to just expose like my like secrets or something like that to like the school population. But yeah, I talk about both my parents. I talk about some of my aunts or uncles that have taught me a lot throughout my life. I have a few professors or just like people that I met in school settings that for some reason or another have really impacted me. Friends, and then like I mentioned, like my ex-boyfriend.
Can we talk about your parents?
Yeah.
How did they influence you, your mom and your dad? What are some of the big ways that you feel like they really impacted your life?
Oh my God, where to start? Like my dad and I are very similar in like the weirdest way, because my dad works a lot, right? And so growing up, I didn't necessarily like spend a lot of time with him, which I never really resented, because I always understood like for some reason, even when I was like 3 years old, I always understood like he's providing for us, like I don't resent him for that. But it's always been very interesting to me how much I grew up to be like him, even though we didn't spend that much time together, at least subjectively, But I guess like just his example of like always like just caring for his family, like just really got instilled in my head, and just his philosophy of life and work and just like being passionate about something just like is something that has always really inspired me, because he is someone who is very independent, very self-sufficient. And some people can argue like, he doesn't know how to ask for help, et cetera, et cetera. But something that I really admire from him is that like go-getter attitude that I try to adopt in my everyday life, that comes from him. Like he's always told me, if you want to get something done, you get it done. Like don't wait for someone else to come to you to get it done.
Is he working in the coffee growing business? You had mentioned that your family grows coffee.
Sort of. So that's my mom's side of the family. He's involved in certain ways, but not in the production of coffee per se. More so like helps my family like do some projects with it. So yeah, a little bit.
What is his primary job?
He does a lot of stuff, honestly. But his main thing, he's an architect. He does some interior design, or like not him necessarily, but he has a business. And so with his employees, he does a little bit of interior design, a little bit of branding. Now that I'm starting to like work with him a little bit more. Yeah, just construction, stuff like that.
Okay, so now I'm starting to see where some of that artistic side came from, architect and entrepreneurial. And now your mom, how has she influenced you?
My mom has influenced me a lot on the emotional side, because my dad, I always tell people that I have an extremely like emotional and logical side, and they often like clash within me, because I feel like I'm 50-50, it's some people tend to gravitate more to one than the other. I feel like I'm pretty like in the middle. And my mom influenced that emotional side that I have. She's just a person that has taught me a lot about loving, and just being like a caring person and just being there for someone and listening. A lot of people tell me that I'm usually someone that they can trust. And I think that that comes from her and seeing how she has just been there for me like through the years. It's been like a really good example for me. I think that because of that, I'm a very like nurturing and like caring person.
Now you've taken that love and that 50-50 that you've gotten from your mom and your dad, and you've been applying that in a lot of ways, all the things that you've been doing at Lycoming and other internships. And one of the internships that I wanted to bring up was your internship at Goodwill.
So that was the first professional experience that I ever had. And that happened over the course of the pandemic. So summer of 2020, the semester before, I was applying to a bunch of places, and some of the things were starting to look like they were going to happen. And then COVID hit, and so everything fell apart, right? And I want to say like first week of June, maybe last week of May, it was very late in the internship search process. I was already like accepting that I wasn't going to work that summer. I was just like looking for ways to like be productive, I guess, if I had to like make up for it. And yeah, at one point during that time frame, I get an email from my academic advisor from Lycoming, and they say, so an alum that works at Goodwill Industries International reached out to us, and they're looking for a PR and communications intern. Would you be interested in applying? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And they're very lovely people. They already knew me from several meetings that we had over the course of this semester. So they pretty much just sent my stuff for me because they already had my resume and everything. And I had an interview. I really clicked with Lauren, my supervisor there. And yeah, I worked for them over the summer, and it was great. I was very intimidated at first because it was my first professional experience. So I took the job. I remember getting the offer letter, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. What am I going to do though? Like, I don't know what it's like to like actually work,
You did quite a bit though, because you designed the first day logo, which is what the company uses across all 156 member organizations.
Yeah.
Right. So describe this logo and what they use it for. And it's called the first day logo.
Yeah. Toward the end of my internship, actually, about maybe 3 weeks before I left Goodwill, they reached out to me and they were like, okay, Valeria, so we were working with a graphic designer to get a DEI logo. And I don't know what happened, but they pulled out at last minute. And so they asked me like, so I know that you have a commercial design background. Would you care to try this out for us? And I was like, yeah, sure. Again, first professional experience and also first professional art experience too. So I was very nervous, right? I think that I spent a collective of probably 24 hours, like not straight, but like a good 24 hours of just like barely getting any breaks because I was just like so like looking at the computer, just like thinking about what to do because I wanted to do something like revolutionary almost. But then I was like, okay, calm down. Like it doesn't have to be like, life-changing or anything like that. But yeah, after like a lot of stress, I came up with that and I showed it to Lauren and they loved it. And so, yeah, not like you said, now it's being used across all 156 member organizations.
Describe the logo if you could.
Well, it says DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then surrounding the D is like this like circular figure, I guess. It's very abstract. It's supposed to like symbolize like different people. It's like rainbow colored. And you have like a little circle for the head, I guess, and then 2 triangles for like the body. But yeah, it looks very corporate, but
but it's designed to promote diversity at Goodwill.
Yeah.
Well, so not a bad start, right?
Yeah, I'd say it was a pretty good one.
Yeah. Who are some of your artistic influences?
Oh, there's this designer from Portland, Oregon. Their name is Kel Lauren, and their specialty is merchandise design, and they work with the music industry, entertainment industry, and I love their style. Like they are just like very chaotic, but it's so interesting to look at. Like their flyers especially, I love their type, first of all. I'm a big type person just because of illustration has always been like a little bit harder for me. And so I love posters that make it look very interesting just by like manipulating the font, right? And they use a lot of that. They go over the actual type with like hand-drawn bubble letters. They play a lot with textures and they play a lot with the pictures and just like the textures in them, etc. They have definitely influenced my graphic design style the the most out of anyone else. Other than that, though, I think, I don't know. I think they're the person that pops up when I think about like my influencers. And then there's others like Instagram pages, that I follow that I really like. But it all falls back to like fonts. I love type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are your next steps for your career now that you're winding up your college career? Now going into the business world, what is that looking like? Are you starting to apply to some different jobs? And
yeah, I mean, I started applying for jobs, I want to say maybe December of last year. And honestly, like applying for jobs has been one of the hardest things that I've done, just because nobody tells you really like how time consuming it is. And also it's very disappointing to get a lot of rejections, of course, but also like not necessarily like hear back for like interviews. That's something that I struggled a lot last year when I was applying for internships over the summer. Actually, I got rejected from this one place before I even submitted the application. That's very nerve-wracking, and it makes you feel like you're not doing anything right, even though like you're doing your research, etc. But it's going. I think that right now I have a very exciting opportunity that's almost a closed seal. But I don't want to disclose it right now because I like to disclose stuff when it's already like official.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, like after a lot of applications and a lot of disappointing like outcomes, I think that I found something that like really fits what I want to do, which is just like working marketing and just like work with marketing, advertising. I want to be creative. I want to work in strategy. If I were to tell you right now, like, oh, this is my dream job, like that, I don't know what my dream job is. I just know that this position that I have potentially coming up,
it checks a lot of boxes.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. And it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Exciting. How is this search? Has it differed at all? And I think I mentioned it earlier on at the start of our conversation today, just like, are there visa issues or anything else that has come up that makes things more challenging being an international student looking for a job in the US versus a domestic student looking for a job in the US?
Right. I would absolutely say that it's more challenging for us to look for jobs. Like I said, there was one time that I got rejected before I even turned in the application. And that was right after I checked the box that said, I will need a visa sponsorship, or I would need it now or in the future. It is very disappointing to like get rejected so much, especially because that to a certain extent, that it must be because of your visa status. And I know some international students that have not struggled to get interviews, but for me specifically, it was definitely a challenge just to get a call back from that initial application. And I think it's right now specifically, it's a good time to be graduating since everything is picking up again from COVID. But I think that the main thing that I would like tell an international student right now who's about to graduate or is coming into the US is probably like your network will be your best friend. Like you need to use that thing extensively in the sense that you never know how a connection can help you in the long run, not just like professionally as in like, make those LinkedIn connections, like send those invites, like of course do that. But even the people that you meet at your school, your advisors, stuff like that, if people really like you and if people see that you're a hardworking person that has a lot of drive, et cetera, they will basically help you get places that you wouldn't have otherwise, Going back to relationships, my senior capstone, like your relationships are going to be like the most important thing that you have in the US in terms of like finding a job. I think that's what helped me do everything that I have done.
And it seems like it's all interconnected to a lot that we talked about in our first conversation.
Yeah.
Being able to find your voice and find a comfort level here in the States. If you hadn't established that as your foundation, you wouldn't have been able to establish these great relationships that are now leading to work and leading to career opportunities. Exactly. So it's amazing how all of that really, really ties together.
It really is.
And that tapestry that you described with this project that you're working on right now, I just had this image pop in of like all of this interconnectedness and all these layers, some stuff hidden, some stuff not on those. Can I call them murals? Is that or posters or?
I call it posters right now, but
Okay.
I feel like that's not the correct word for it.
Well,
I'm still
we'll
trying to
stick with
figure it.
posters for right now.
Yeah.
But on those posters, just those textures and those layers and everything underneath and all the interconnectedness, it's very appropriate for what you're working on right now and your career advancement as well. So before we wrap up, I wanted to just ask two other questions. One of them, who is someone dead or alive that you would like to spend a day with?
Emma Chamberlain. She started off as a YouTuber, known as an influencer. And I didn't grow up with her because I was already, I want to say like 16 years old when she was becoming very popular. But I've always really admired just how, first of all, her work ethic. I think that she has done so much for how young she is. She has a coffee business, which obviously like I really admire because of my background and like my family. I've always been very interested in just the concept of having a brand for yourself online. I've never really like tried doing it just because I don't know what that would be yet if I ever do it. But yeah, I think that she's so mature for her age, and just like the way that she talks about her work, she's very passionate about it, like, so I would love to just have a conversation with her and just get to see what someone so young, so successful, how they think, like how their mind works, how they create the content that they do, how they express their creativity, and just how, I don't know, you always hear about these people just hustling, 24/7, and sometimes they make it big. I want to sit down with someone like that and kind of just like talk and see how their everyday thought process almost like,
Yeah.
Fun
to try to deconstruct that. From an outsider's perspective, it seems so daunting. And then a lot of times when you actually get to talk to that person, you can learn so much about the reality of what went into getting there, and sometimes that demystifies it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you get toward the later parts of your life, so let's say it's your 75th birthday, you walk into a room filled with all your friends and family, and they're talking about the type of person you are, what they love about you, what you've accomplished. What would you hope that they're saying?
I've always been someone who's very afraid of failure. And I don't know what I define failure as. I think that when I was growing up, I always thought that it meant not achieving what I wished to achieve professionally. Because I touched on this last time. Like, I've always dreamt big, right? And I think that if I was in that situation, like people were talking about me, I think that I just want to be someone that people look at and they say that I don't live with like any regrets, that I did everything that I could to achieve those dreams. And if I didn't make it as big as I once thought that I was going to make it, I still want to be someone who is looked at just that I lived, that I had those experiences, that I didn't necessarily like waste my time doing something that I didn't like. Or if I didn't end up liking something, that I wasn't afraid to make that change for myself, like go a different path or do something that people were warning me against, I just want to live very true to myself and do what I know will make me happy. And I think that coming to the US was that in a way. My family they weren't unsupportive of me coming here, but they were definitely very sad to let me go. And it's still something that they struggle with. It was very hard to make a decision because I knew that I was like hurting some people, but I knew that I wouldn't be myself if I hadn't come.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited to see all the great things that you do with your life and your career. Thank you so much, Valeria, for stopping by again and chatting with us, and really nice to talk with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wishing you lots of success.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for listening to International Student Stories. And thank you to our team for putting together this episode. Stories are meant to be shared, so please pass the story on to a friend or family member who needs to hear a good story. A few other quick notes. I invite you to check out the show notes if you want more details on some of the topics discussed in this episode. For all the latest podcast news, stop by our website, studyintheusaglobal.com/podcast. That's STUDY in the USA global.com/podcast. Subscribe to the International Student Stories podcast to be alerted on new episodes. And contact us if you know of a current or former international student whose story needs to be shared with the world. Goodbye for now, be well, and much love to each and every one of you.